Okay, can we see the screen, Elizabeth?
Yes, we can, Ben.
Okay, so hi there, everyone. So my name is Ben Orsesi, and this is...
Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Frimpong.
We are two of the Careers and Higher Education advisors here based in Angel Campus. We did deliver these sessions to some of you during a tutorial time over the last couple of weeks, but for some reason you may not have been able to attend, so we thought we would kindly do a little recording of it for you, and obviously you're watching this through our Careers YouTube page. So we're going to run you through a few things here today about upcoming things to do with UCAS and a bit on personal statements. So some of the things we're going to talk to you about for the next 45 minutes to an hour at the maximum. We're going to talk to you about how you register and start your UCAS application. That's a bit to do with the UCAS Hub, which I know from some of the talks you've done already. Some of you have already signed up for it, some of you haven't. So we'll talk to you a bit about that, because that's one thing you can do now and you really should be doing as first year BTEC or first year A-level students. Elizabeth's going to talk to you quite a lot about what to include on your application and some of the common mistakes that we find a lot of when we come to the checking part of that. So we're also going to touch base on this. It may not be on this slide, but we'll also talk to you a bit about our Candy UCAS process, which is a bit about how we sort of send your forms off and things like that. We'll talk to you about our deadlines and some of the things on the UCAS tariff table. It's very important for you to understand what some of these numbers mean. It can be a bit confusing when you're looking at things on UCAS. We're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about personal statements. We know this is a big thing for students always. Hopefully demyth some kind of things on that as well. And then we'll also talk to you about the value of open days, which is a really important thing that you could be doing now, and really top tips for you for university research moving forward, because you're all going to finish obviously your first year of A-levels or first year of BTEC quite soon. So things you could be doing over the summer. So hopefully you find the session useful today. So there'll be parts where I'm talking or Elizabeth's talking, but then we'll be talking collaboratively as well. Okay, so if you haven't started yet already, this is something you will need to do. UCAS always brings in quite a few changes every year on the UCAS sort of site and everything. This is one thing that we found this year that was changed. And it's a good thing, actually, the UCAS Hub account. Okay, you need to do this actually to enable yourself to register later on in the process. But from this month, on the applications tile, you can set up your own UCAS Hub account. And once you get into UCAS and see it, it's quite a straightforward thing to do. And from this here, you'll see that it's a bit like some of these tiles things here. And what I have found, and lots of other products and things that are available to you as young people, things like Unifrog or Which, and loads of other research sites. UCAS is trying to provide a sort of tool for you, which is to use, I suppose, not exclusively, but with those other products as well. It's a good sort of swiping thing that you can be using here. Okay, so within this UCAS Hub, you can explore your ideas, subjects. You can obviously look at apprenticeships as well, which you wouldn't think you could do in UCAS. That's a different part of it, but you'll be able to do that through the UCAS Hub. You can favourite thousands and thousands of courses. It does say here there's over 35,000 courses you can favourite, but I sort of do know there are over 50,000 different degree options there, and also obviously there are not 50,000 A-level subjects or 50,000 different BTEC options there, so you can look wider than what you're studying there at the moment. There's an online platform for virtual tours. I suppose this has all probably come out of all the sort of pandemic stuff over the last few years. Luckily for you guys as students, things have opened up a bit more, so these should be used, I suppose, only in conjunction probably with tours and stuff and open days, which we'll come to in a minute. You can use a predicted grade things there to change your tariff points. We'll explain to you a bit on those there at the moment. There's a great resource called UniBuddy, which I quite like. This is where effectively there's people from different universities that are probably just only a little bit older than you, in their sort of late teens, early 20s, been through a similar process of research over the last few years, and they can give you an insight into what a course is like or what a university is like. And as I said, you will need this for 2023 entry. You will not be able to link your application until you've done that. So again, the tiles here are quite user friendly, mean, what I would say, and I know this certainly from when we're going through applications here with you, I think these tiles have been brought in to make it quite user-friendly to use on your phones. Okay, but what I would say is once you've kind of registered on UCAS Hub and are using inputting information on the UCAS site, which Elizabeth will cover in a minute, try and get into the habit of maybe not using your phones, isn't it, Elizabeth? I know maybe I'm being a bit old-fashioned here, but it's a good kind of habit to get into. Try and work on UCAS when you're doing things on a PC or on a tablet. Really, I think it's a better way rather than using your phone to be sort of almost texting your personal statement. So that's on there. Now, this is really important stuff to think about. We here at Angel Campus here, we sort of manage and kind of sort of look after all of your UCAS applications, and the only way we can manage it is by linking, or by you linking to us. So when you come back to the second year of your BTEC or the year 13 of A levels and start September, we'll give you our buzzword, and that buzzword is a unique code set by us in the college, and really it allows us to actually handle your application. It allows us to view it. And really importantly for you as students, it allows your tutor to actually see your application. When you're coming to sort of finalise your UCAS form and things like that, and you're coming to us for final checking, your tutor has to actually upload your reference, and he or she would not be able to do that unless you're linked to us. Okay, so when you go on further in September on the application here, you just set up your UCAS Hub account. And then it will ask you to enter a buzzword, and then it will bring up an option. It will say City and Islington College Angel Campus, and then you will find your tutor's name on there. Okay, so that means that we as advisors can see your form. We can look over your form when you're coming here for final checking, and a tutor can see your form and can manage your application as well. Now, if we give you the buzzword now, it's going to create loads of problems, isn't it? It's going to create loads of admin further down the line. So if you've gone too far in the application after the hub and you're starting to enter some of the details Elizabeth is going to talk to you about, you've gone too far. Now, UCAS is a very sort of flexible product. We can kind of link you to us later in the day, but if you're starting to enter details, you know you've gone too far, really. But don't worry if that is the case. Just come and speak to Elizabeth or I, or Stefani, our careers manager, in the careers room L27 in the sixth form building, and we can kind of correct that for you. Okay. And yeah, like, I mean, I suppose before Elizabeth comes to some of the application bits, just to sort of run through some of the process here. Once you've linked to us here in the college, Elizabeth will start talking to you about the things you're going to input on your application. But really, the simple process here is that you're going to meet with your tutor for him or her to add your reference and look over your form. But your form won't be sent to UCAS until you sit with an actual advisor like Elizabeth or I. So what tends to happen is between, and we'll talk about some of the deadlines, you'll kind of come to us for final checking. We will look over your whole application, and once we're happy with it, we'll send your application to UCAS at that point. And at any point we can send your UCAS form back and forth to you. So you're working quite closely with your tutor to get the first part of checking done, and then you're coming to us for the final send. And it's quite good at the way we do it here now in careers that you can physically see your UCAS form being sent off. So it goes through quite a sort of stringent checking process. Okay, all that will come quite clear, and we did have some students this year that finished their form and wondering why it hadn't been sent, and it hadn't been sent because they hadn't come to speak to one of us here in the careers room. So it won't be sent unless you've sat with someone like Elizabeth and I and gone through your application. Okay, so let's get Elizabeth to move forward on some of the things you're going to include.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. Right. Yeah, okay. All right. All right, let me begin. So once you have connected yourself to City Islington College and you've put yourself in the correct tutor group, as Ben said, then you are actually ready to start completing the form. And just like what Ben said, if possible, when you are completing the form and completing all these sections on the UCAS application, if you can do it on the PC on your laptop, on the PC. We have computers down in the career center here, or you can go to the library. But if you do it on a PC, you probably it will be easier for you to see the entire screen and to be able to see what section you have completed and you haven't completed. The thing with UCAS, there's so much information on there, and sometimes you might have to scroll all the way down to get to the final section. But definitely try and do it on your PC if possible. Right, so you're ready to complete the form. So it would look like this, and you see there's little square boxes. So on the left, you can see your profile, your overview. So this will tell you what you've done and what you haven't done, and there'll be ticks as you go along. So let me start. So with your personal information, please remember to put a capital letter. So we want a capital letter on your initials. Make sure you have a capital letter on your initials, and the same when you're inputting your education. So definitely we need capital letters where needed. Contact and residency details. So that's the borough you live in. So you would look through the list and you will select what borough you live in. Then you would put in your work experience, and again, there might be a tab. Don't quote me. I think sometimes there is a tab of some recognized work experience. If not, you can just type in your work experience and just put in the dates you completed that. If you're not sure on the specific dates, don't worry too much. We just need to know roughly the month and the year. And then maybe in the comment section, you can put the duration. If it was 2 weeks, if it was six months, 6 weeks, we can write that in there. When it comes to your education, you have to list all your education from your secondary school to college at the moment. And if you are taking any extra qualifications outside of City and Islington, that needs to be inputted on your form at that stage. Remember, this is one application form that's going out to all universities. So this has to have all your information on there. So when we talk about education, we want all your GCSE results. So all the GCSEs that you sat and you received a grade for it, whether you received a 1 or a 2, sorry, or a 3, we need it all on there. So some of you may have received a 1, 2, or 3 grade in your GCSEs, and you may be repeating those GCSEs in year 1, or you might have to redo them again in the second year. So we need all of that information on there. So the first section, you would put your secondary school information. Make sure your secondary school, the name of it, you put the initials and capital letters, remember, and the start date would be September, the year you started, and the finish date would be August with the year you started. And then you would list all your GCSEs you sat. And you also have to, if you can have this information, if you do have your GCSE results, if you can have that in front of you whilst you are completing this education section, that would help you a lot, because it will ask you for the examining board and the grade you received. So you do need to know if whether you sat geography, if it was AQA or edXL, you need to have that information. So if you can have that information, if you look for it now, just put it in a safe place. So now you've added your secondary school education. Now let's add your current education. Sorry, I'm just going to go back one. So if you maybe attended more than one secondary school, please do add that. So you would just add, so if maybe year 7, year 8, year 9, you went to one school, you would, put the name of the school and the years. You wouldn't put any qualifications underneath that, and then you would add a second secondary school. But any problems when you come down here, through our guidance meetings, we will get that. We will get that information corrected for you. Right, so present, you would put your City and Islington Angel Campus. Is that correct, Ben? Angel Campus.
Yes.
Angel Campus, yeah.
Even though if you're even an A-level student, there may be a sixth form college heading come up, but again,
Yeah.
you'll see us on a handout we give you. But yeah, Cities and College Angel Campus for both BTEC and A-level. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would put down City and Islington Angel Campus, and you would highlight under qualification, you would say what qualification you're studying. So if you are doing the BTEC, you would find the relevant BTEC course. So the extended there's a list, so your tutor will be able to tell you exactly what the name of it, because I know there's some numbers that goes with it, but your tutor will definitely point you in the right direction. And for BTEC students, you have to put in every single module you are studying. So you have a number of modules. So again, you need to work with your tutors very closely. You need to know the names of those modules and you need to put them all in. Slightly different for BTEC students, you would have to put in your modules from year 1. And then beside that, you would put what grade you achieved. So whether it was a distinction star, distinction merit pass, you would put that down. And then you would start listing your year 2 modules. And beside that, you would leave the grade as pending. So on your form, we would want to see City and Islington College, the name of the BTEC you're doing. The first section would be your year 1 modules with your grades. And the second part of that list would have your modules, but the grades will be pending. For those of you who are studying A levels, you would put in, again, you would put your grades. I'm sorry, you would not grade. You would put the subject you're studying, the examining board, and you will leave your grade as pending. Because remember, it's your tutor. When you meet with your tutor will verbally tell you what your predicted grades are, but you do not put it in UCAS. The tutor will input it once they've done your reference. Okay, let's move on. But definitely that section, I know Ben agrees with me on this. I would say the education section is where students get a bit, there's a lot of mistakes we need to correct. Yeah. Okay. Then nationality details. Obviously, just select your nationality and put that down. If English is a second language, you'd have, sorry, not if English is a second language, but if you are not fluent in English, English language skills. So yeah, if you're not fluent in English, you would have to select that. But I think most people are, so I'm not really sure why they put that box really. Because if you tick yes, there's another box that comes to, you have to put in your English speaking or language skills also. There's a particular exam you'd have to sit, but I think everyone ideally should be fine. But if there's any issues, just come and see us on that part and we can help you correct that. Supporting information, so you would look down that column and see if there's anything you need to add on to that. I can't remember what actually goes into that box properly. And then you've got the big section with your personal statement. So just as Ben was saying, your personal statement, you should all be working on it now. So at the moment, you should all register with the hub, as Ben said. You should be researching. So honestly, this year, I can't stress enough, it's about research, research, research. And once you've started to do that research and you're confident with which degree course you want to go for, and you've got very good reasons for it, you can start making notes on your personal statement. So that personal statement, you need to liaise with your tutor and find out how your tutor wants to receive it. So some tutors are asking for it to be emailed to them on Word, or some tutors actually want it through the Unifrog platform. So please check with your tutor on how they would like the personal statement sent to them. Then you would make your choices. So you have up to 5 choices. You have 5 choices, so 5 universities, and at each of the universities you can pick one course. And there's many different variety of courses. There's the joint honours where you do 2 subjects joined together. There's the single honours. There's the sandwich course. So definitely that research you're going to do on a UCAS hub, and when you're attending the open days and coming to careers and liaising with your tutors, all of these questions, just don't be afraid to ask if you're not sure. As I said, the next section, I don't know if they see it on, okay, so the next section that's just underneath here, it's your reference. So again, with that section, you would meet with your tutor and your tutor will go through the reference for you. So they would sit with you, together you would read a reference. They would go over what your predicted grades are, and if you're all happy with it, then it gets sent across to careers. Oh, definitely this box where it says finance and funding. So we always have lots of questions around this, which is fine. So with finance and funding, university. University is not free. University is not like you in secondary school or coming to college. It's not just funded by the government. It's private, so it's self-funded. So most students take out what you would have heard called a student loan. The student loan is from the government and it pays for your course fees and your living maintenance. So if you want to apply for it, there is a box. It says Student Finance England 02. Click on that. If you're going to self-fund or private funding, you click on that. So however you're going to fund your degree course, you'd have to select. And then there's another box, diversity and inclusion. So in that box, if I think that box is what asks you about your family background and your parents. Anyway, there's a box, there's a section that asks you what is your parents' occupation, because there are some universities that have a widening participation scheme, and sometimes they look through the form and see if maybe you're the first in your family to go to university, or maybe your family in a a career that's that may not have needed a degree, so they can pick that up from there. And again, if you're a UK, for students in the UK, home address. Okay, so there's going to be some students, I'm sure we might have some access students watching this as well. You may have joined City in Islington from your home country, so you'd have to put that down as well. Okay, can we
We'll
have
sort of have some handouts. Next slide, yeah, we'll have some handouts which we'll give to you. It's one of these things, isn't it? Once you get into it, it becomes a lot clearer, isn't it? Because there's a checking
Absolutely.
process. This is a checking process on it. Don't worry if you fill something out wrong, because we deal with over nearly 1,000 UCAS forms here, so we can spot errors quite quickly. And I think talking about errors, isn't it? So you're going to come and talk to it. I think there's a couple of bits, isn't it, Elizabeth?
Yep.
So. Are you doing this bit on my Zoom? I don't think so.
The slide hasn't changed. It's still on slide number 6. If you can put it on slide number 7.
It says common errors on my one here.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep, I've got it now. Perfect. So I just want to, yep, amazing. Right. So I know I've talked a lot about the application process, and you might be sitting there thinking, oh, I know how to complete my name and put all my personal details in, but we definitely do have to go through it, because every year we have common errors and mistakes, and it happens every year, and it's not a problem, but we just want to give you some tips on how to avoid those common errors. So remember, you have to register only with City and Islington Angel Campus buzzword. If you haven't put the buzzword in whilst you're completing the form, you've made a mistake. If you've not put yourself in the correct tutor group, you've made a mistake. Again, course fees, that always comes up. So, every year some people make a mistake and put private funding, which is fine. If you're going to pay privately, you go ahead. But yeah, we definitely would look at that, and we would just ask you, are you sure you don't want to just indicate to UCAS to put you through to the student finance? Okay. Remember, always capitalize your name, your school name, and your qualification titles, please. So when you're typing in your BTEC, I don't want to see lowercase BTEC. I'd like to see capital letters, and all your subjects as well. So when you list all your subjects you're studying, please do just use a capital letter on the first on the first letter. Add all your GCSEs under your school heading year. So some people make a mistake and they will maybe come back and add another GCSE, and they end up putting it into another institution. So just make sure all your GCSEs come under your school you attended, and similarly all your subjects, all your modules come under City and Islington College. And if you are doing subjects in other places, that's fine. You might be sitting an exam privately, you just put private education or so, or private tutor, I can't remember what it's called, and then you would just put what subjects you're doing and make sure just everything is all on that form. Okay, so another yep, Thanks, Ben. Yes, remember to add your A levels as pending. For BTEC students, you would put your first year results, and your second year results would your second year modules will be down as pending. Ensure that you have added August, please, onto your completion date. I know some of you might finish in June or May for some people, or finish your last exam in July, but your actual completion date is August. So it has to be start date September, completion end date always has to be August. Make sure you are choosing a range and a good balance of 5 universities. Remember, you have 5 choices. Really generous to get 5 choices. Make sure you have a range. So when we talk about a range, when you are now clear of what your predicted grades are, we want to see from your predicted grades, we want to see maybe 1 aspirational, maximum 2. We want to see at least 2 solids, and we want to see at least 1 safe option. So we want to see a broad range of degree subjects and university choices, basically. And I know on here it says at least 1 university choice should be below your predicted grade. So that's what I mean when I say safe. So safe is if you're on a AAA, you have gone for at least 1 university that is asking for maybe AAB or ABB. So that's a safe option. So whatever happens, I can always get into this university.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Those last points about choices, I mean, that's we could talk about all the things that are important on UCAS form. Elizabeth's run through the bits and bobs of filling out boxes and stuff, but if I had to put a sort of hierarchy ranking of the most important things, how you pick your choices and how they relate to your predicted grades is really the most important things. And if you've got a very experienced tutor, then he or she's maybe been involved in UCAS before, they can help and guide you with this. But this is our kind of bread and butter, really, choices and stuff. And we can, if the choices are not right on a UCAS form, it's the reason why it won't be set off really in lots of ways. So this is where we can really help. And you need to have a good range of balance, and we're starting to see A-level and BTEC students now who are making their final decisions, and all this comes back round in kind of a May, June of either second year of BTEC or second year of A-level when you come to make these final decisions. So if you've made a good selection of range of choices, you're likely to have I suppose, a better experience of UCAS and a better process of picking choices. But that's, as Elizabeth was saying, or I was saying, in terms of UCAS Hub, research is all about these choices. In terms of good courses and how it links to the statement, but also being realistic with your predicted grades. So it's very important as either A-level or BTEC students, you get to know what they are as soon as possible. Okay, so some deadlines here for you. Now, only a handful of you will be working towards that first deadline. If you're an A-level or BTEC student thinking about applying to Oxford or Cambridge, or medicine, veterinary or dentistry, or an access student as well, there's a national UCAS deadline of the 15th of October, which means that you have to have your form submitted before that, because this year actually in careers we dealt with over 40 A-level applications to Oxbridge and medicine and dentistry. It's massive, so it's a massive job. So we need a bit of time there, and your teachers need to get your reference done. So so yeah, you need to make yourself aware of who you are to us here in the careers department, because your whole form needs to be submitted actually. I mean, you can actually add some of your choices after that date. So if you're applying to Oxford for English or medicine, you'll have some choices you can add later, and that's not a problem, but you can't change the statement or anything. So you'll have an inflexible deadline because you're working towards a national deadline. Now, the vast majority of you will be working to those other deadlines. That little date at the bottom that says the 25th of January 2023, that's the national UCAS deadline. Now, we can't deal with 1,000 UCAS forms on the 24th or 25th of January, can we, Elizabeth? It's completely chaotic. So lots of these deadlines are to help you, I suppose, manage your application and get it kind of set up. It's also for us in the careers department here, so that we can help and support you over the whole kind of, that term period and going over into the spring term there as well. We have far too many students that submit late UCAS forms. I see a late UCAS form as kind of in early January, really, I would say, really. And as we said, you have to come to us for final checking here and for us to send your form. So I wouldn't encourage you to rush it and get it done in October, but as I said, I think kind of November, December, kind of November is the key month. Anything after post half term is a real good kind of time period to work towards. So yeah, and the earlier you send off your application, if it's a measured, well thought out application, you're likely to get 3 to 5 offers back, and that helps you moving forward in terms of if you get offered from Greenwich or Goldsmiths or Manchester or whatever, and they tell you what BTEC grades or A-level grades they want. That's a good sort of carrot to be working towards if your subject teachers there moving forward. Okay, and yeah, so you might think this is all too early, but the kind of reality is, as soon as you come back at the start of the second year of your BTEC or year 13 of A-levels, this kind of UCAS machine will kind of just be kind of it all the time. This is why you're having a lot of this stuff in your tutorials now. So yeah, try and work towards their deadline. Try and avoid a January sending. I mean, as I said, we know many of you may end up doing that. Quite, I think, a good kind of embryonic process to try and get it done in that sort of term before the kind of seasonal break, really. So, okay. And as I said, it won't be sent to UCAS, as I said earlier, until you physically sat with us here in the careers department. So the simple process is, I suppose, you're kind of doing research now, using Unifrog, registering in the UCAS hub, doing lots of research. We'll talk about open days in a minute. You'll register with the buzzword at the start of the year. You'll meet with your tutor to go through your form, and then you'll come to us in the careers department. And that's not a booked meeting you'll have to make, it's a drop-in. So you'll come in and drop into us here for the form to be sent. And just a little bit of advice for you: if you come to us in January around sort of 10:30, you may end up waiting for hours just to be seen. If you turn up at 9:30, you could be seen straight away. We don't see lots of people do here, Elizabeth, really early. You tend to come at times that suits you in your kind of break or lunch, but even if you turn up in January at 9:15, you can be seen almost straight away and your form sent off. So try and beat the queue, I would say, really. Okay. For those of you who are doing BTEC, okay, your distinction star grades, they're down to passes, can sometimes be given obviously in the letters and sometimes can be given in points. More often than not, I find with BTEC students they often give it quite, as working with BTEC students this academic year, you see it quite clearly given to you there on the left hand side. So it's quite self-explanatory. For those of you doing A-level, the vast majority of university courses still use the letters. So any course that's asking for more A, B, B upward, you'll probably see it just in letters, okay? So it's quite easy to follow, and especially when we're thinking about range of choices. But if you're a student working towards Bs and Cs, which is fine for A-level, and again, I think in those sort of DMM, MMM, BTEC grades, you'll sometimes see universities asking for points. So again, especially if you're an A-level student with a mixed prediction, so maybe you've got a prediction of like ABD, ABD in terms of points is 2 below 120, so that's 104. So you never see a course asking for ABD. So if you're an ABD prediction, I'd be looking at universities that are having points there as well. Okay, so it's just a matter of you just need to, you know, take a picture of this slide, whatever, it's all on the UCAS tariff tables. And actually, if year 12 or first year BTEC hasn't gone quite as well and your predictions are more like DCC or around MMP, you can still apply to university. There are lots of options, but you will be looking at foundation options, which is kind of like an extra year at university, or sometimes it can be called extended. The word foundation isn't to be confused if you're a student applying for kind of art courses. That art foundation is a slightly unfortunate use of the word foundation there. There are different courses. You apply for art foundation outside of UCAS, but if your predictions are not as what you'd hoped, and let's say you have a prediction of MMP or DDC, we would make sure your application probably has a mixture of degree options and foundation options. Those are things that, as we as advisors, will really understand quite clearly and can explain that to you. Your tutors may not be able to understand it quite as much, especially if they're not experienced in kind of UCAS as well. Okay, so that's just things to learn and implement. I'm going to talk to you a bit about open days. Now, this really is one of the most important things you can be doing. Now, unfortunately, for our recent kind of A-level and BTEC students over the last couple of years, they had to rely on kind of virtual open days, and universities did as much as they could, obviously, with there not being people being able to sort of move around as much. But thankfully, this academic year, to the start of this UCAS process. Historically, Easter, April, May is always the time when universities are open for year 12 or first year BTEC students. And I know from some of the talks we've done with students kind of live here in the careers room, there are some of you that have gone to open days, not enough really, I would say. But it's really the number one thing you can do in terms of research. You could do a lot of online research. Of course, it's going to help you look at modules and things like that, and get a feel for places, but you can't beat the reality of coming on an open day. I'm sure if many of you came to an open day here during year 11, you spoke to A-level teachers or BTEC subject teachers, coming to an open day, and then as well, I suppose, meeting some students here that were student helpers on that day, that really gave you an insight into what coming to City Eastern College would be like. As Elizabeth mentioned, coming to college is free, but going to university you're borrowing lots of money. So especially if you're a student thinking about moving away from home, which again is a personal decision for lots of students and can be a good or a bad reason depending on what your home situation is or what your personal situation is. But if you're looking to go to the University of Leeds or Sheffield or Manchester or Plymouth or somewhere in Scotland, you know, you really need to visit places, and you can really get an overview of the environments, can't you, at kind of universities, Elizabeth, when you visit them. It's really important, don't you think?
Oh yes, absolutely. You get a sense of, you know, remember you're going to be studying there for the next 3 years. You have to, be really, you have to feel comfortable there physically, and also the course, it's not just about going to the city centre and looking around, looking at the halls of residence. It's about delving into the course. So what does my course involve? Is it mainly, is it hybrid or is it in person? You need to really find out the key information.
And I think you as students, and if you're going, I would sort of not recommend going in large groups of friends to open day. It's okay to go in small groups of, friends, or, from all four, if you're interested in similar courses, but it's good to go in small groups or with a parent, guardian, or older brother, sister, or cousin. But you should be going to open days and you should be asking probing questions. You should be asking them difficult questions. If you're borrowing £9,300 to go to university, you should be asking, what support am I getting around careers development? What opportunities do you have? Do you have sandwich years? Do you have links with universities in mainland Europe or North America or Australia? You should be asking these questions. Why should you not? Yeah, you should be putting these universities under pressure. You should be thinking, putting them to, for you to justify why this could be a good choice for you. And, you can do all the research you want about a course and a module, but if it's not a good fit for the place, it will soon unravel. And I've said this in the talks we've done live, in an ideal sense, it'd be great for you to visit 15 open days and then pick your top 5 by the time you apply in November, December. I know that's unrealistic and probably difficult in time, but try and set yourself the target of visiting at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 universities by the time you apply in October, November. You can still visit universities throughout year 13 or the second year of your BTEC. Often they have things called applicant days. So let's say you apply to Greenwich and they give you an offer. They could say, here's a date in March for an applicant day. So that's kind of like a marketing strategy for them to sort of show you the course, show you the place, and help you in those final decisions. Okay. If you haven't done so already, actually there's a site, it sounds quite old fashioned, but there's a site called opendays.com. You can actually find every uni, find the open days. And as well, last understand this, if they're open days, many of them happen on a Saturday. I was asked in some of the talks if you can take time off college. Very rarely they'll ever be in the week, and we wouldn't be encouraging you to do that. But more often than not, they're on Saturdays. If you do have a weekend Saturday job, it's a really important thing to maybe talk to your employer and say, look, can I maybe switch one of these days or do it over the time when you're off in the summer, because that'll be the best thing to do on a Saturday rather than work, I would say, if there's a uni you're really thinking about. The open days will really, and it will really bring the concept of university to life. And it might make you think university isn't for you, which is fine as well. Okay. But really make some time if you haven't been done so already, because this is like music for my ears when I see a student for final checking and they say to me, I've looked up the course, looked at the modules, I've been to the place, I can see myself studying there. That's as much as you want to hear from a student when they're submitting their UCAS form. So yeah, okay, so we're going to move on for sort of the next section on, Elizabeth's going to start on personal statements.
Brilliant. So personal statements. Wow, where do I start with that? So the personal statement is generally used by the admissions teams. So the 5 university choices, the 5 universities you send UCAS, you send your form to, they would use your personal statement just to see, they would read it and see, why does this person want to do this course? What knowledge do they have about it? What evidence have they shown why they want to do this course? They would also check if you have the correct qualifications and if you have the right grades or predicted grades to do the course. And then the second stage is okay. So this is who looks at your personal statement. So it's the admissions team that looks at your personal statement, and they're checking for all of these things. Everything that's in your personal statement. They're reading every single sentence. Second stage is the admissions tutor. So first you've got the wider team. So for example, you're going for what are you going for? You're going for psychology. So the psychology department, the social sciences department, I should say, someone in that admissions team will receive it and will read it and make sure you've got all the right requirements for the course. And if it's a good fit, they pass it on to the admissions tutor. So that admissions tutor, who's often a lecturer and who's someone who is the person who may possibly be teaching you, they are the ones that you want to impress. Yeah. So you want to make sure that, there's no spelling errors, there's no gimmicks, there's no, it's well written, well structured, and you've put all the information down. So the personal statement, it helps the universities decide who they would make an offer to. So the personal statement along with all your UCAS form, because remember the personal statement is within that UCAS form. Remember, you have your your secondary education, you've got your current education, you've got all that information about your work experience and any other extracurriculum activities you've done. So all of that goes on your form, but the personal statement in particular will help the admissions team decide if they give you an offer or not. And most often, if you're going for courses such as nursing, physiotherapy, so mainly those courses that have a real practical element with it, where they know you're going to be on placement half the time and you're going to be learning theory most of the time. So they want to know that this candidate is right for the course, and it will help them to decide if they invite you in for an interview as well. And finally, and not finally, but during that interview, they would they would have a copy of your personal statement. Obviously, they've read it before, and they will pick out some key points from your personal statement and just ask you, tell me about this time when you did X, Y, and Z. And because you've put it on your personal statement, they want to question, number one, is it accurate? And number two, did you actually get something from it that relates to the course you're coming for? So definitely it shows a good understanding of it shows it can demonstrate if you have a good understanding of the course you're going for. Okay, right. All right. What? So the personal statement, there's a personal. Okay, yep. So again, they're looking, does the person have the correct qualifications and grades? Is the person hardworking, or are they likely to drop out? Will the applicant cope with the demands of the course? What are their communication skills like, and what research have they done? Which I know obviously it's quite hard to determine if someone's going to drop out of the course from a personal statement. But I think again, the personal statement is a way of you really demonstrating why you want to get onto that course. So that passion, that drive for wanting to maybe do accounting and finance, or maybe do paramedic science. So they can really sense. Remember, admissions tutors, they have thousands of personal statements to read. They have so many to read, and you know um, some students come to us and ask, do tutors actually read the personal statements? They do look at it, so they will definitely have a look at each and every one of them. How closely do they read into it? I can't. I'm not sure, unless maybe Ben can shed some light on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's a big question of like there's obviously so many courses out there, but we'll come on to that in a second. But if you're in our talks, or even obviously if you're not, then obviously we've got the handouts here. I've got a handout with a clear paragraph structure, and it's the same one for slightly changed wording for the BTEC and A-level groups. But you need a clear, concise structure, clear beginning, middle, and end. Couple of points they're not on this slide. Try and avoid the word passion. It's the most overused word. Try and avoid kind of expressions like since a young age. As Elizabeth said, an admissions tutor, he or she could be reading 100 of these in the morning. Those are like sort of bed bugs for those. You need to be analytical and reflective. Okay. What I would say as well, it doesn't all have to relate to the course. So if you're applying for a history course or paramedic science, yes, there needs to be some kind of beginning as to why. But in the handout, which we can provide to you here, you can reflect on other things. You can reflect on your experiences or the job you've had or responsibilities that you've had. Going to university is about spinning a lot of plates. So it doesn't always have to say all about the course. You should be showing yourself in a positive light. So you can extract from other things from outside of your academic or kind of BTEC experiences here, to show yourself in a positive light, to show yourself as a student that would cope with the kind of, I suppose, demands of studying at university. As Elizabeth touched on there about some of these specific courses, if you're applying for a vocational course like medicine, nursing, teaching, physiotherapy, the sort of style of your statement would be a bit different, because you're not just applying for a degree course, you're applying for like a job almost. So you need to show a bit more of an understanding of what that job is. You maybe need to link your experience into those. And just to say, with those sorts of courses, you're going to be competing with adults, people in their 20s, 30s, or even their 40s, who have had a lot more life experience than you. And those courses are looking to recruit both from people your age, and again, there could be some of you as access students applying for these courses as well. And those courses are looking to apply a variety of people onto those courses. But you need to be aware of, if you're, I suppose, a BTEC or A-level student, just to think about how you can show your life experiences in a positive light. Okay. You need to be honest. You need to, the honesty part of it, you need to be aware that every statement goes through a tracking, and not that goes through a sort of, every form will be kind of scanned, and they can see whether there's any kind of plagiarism there. So the key advice is, don't kind of lift things from books or websites. Sounds obvious, just use a structure. I had a tutor say in one of the talks here, make sure it's original. Yeah, so you need to effectively have a blank piece of paper, or write, or I'm sure you won't probably do, but a blank screen, and start working from it. You need a redrafting process. Do be aware that teachers, career staff will all give you different kind of input. We'll have personal statement workshops here. If you speak to Elizabeth for a drop-in or me for a drop-in, we'll all might say slightly different things. Okay, so there's not that one person is right, one's wrong, or one's more experienced. You need to take on all of the advice and kind of implement it yourself. You mentioned about how important it is, Elizabeth, or how much they're read. Personally, I think they are important, but if I had to put a ranking of the most important things, it's those choices again. Okay, so if a student's got 5 good, sensible choices that are kind of sensible across their predicted grades, and as long as the statement's got a clear, cohesive structure, I think that's fine. It's never that you would not work hard on the statement. Certainly, I know when we're sort of checking forms here, and if the students told me the tutors checked the statement, I'll kind of glance through and check for real common areas. But if I can see a real common narrative as to why they've chosen that course, that's fine, really. But you'd never undersell yourself with the statement, of course, because it can have, obviously an impact. I mean, we never know exactly how much of it is going to be read, but you would always, because it's such an important thing, your UCAS application, you'd always give it your best shot. But at some point, I find with students, the redrafting can get to like draft 10, draft 12, and it's kind of like students are just almost going round and round. At some point, you need to almost draw a line in the sand. And some of the students can spend so much time on the statement, they're not doing the research on the choices. That's what I'm saying. So work hard on it, but again, it should as well work in this kind of embryonic bit of your research. You should be researching, and it should lead on to, if you've done your research and you're justifying, and so you're clear why you're applying for the course, the statement should be a natural thing to write, really. Okay. Okay, so Elizabeth's going to talk to you a bit about entry requirements, our sort of top tips before we finish off. Elizabeth, I think you might be on mute.
I am, and sorry about that,
Yeah.
everybody. So I was talking about entry requirements. Make sure you are checking the entry requirements for each course across each university. So one university might have the same course and completely different entry requirements to another. I know most of you will be having conversations with friends and family, and friends and family might be suggesting this uni and that uni and all of these universities, which is amazing, but it is ultimately, it's your responsibility to check what those grades are. So even if your family has suggested Oxford or so, go onto Oxford's website and have a look at what are the entry requirements, and then you have to process and think to yourself, am I on these grades, or is this what my tutor said they're going to put forward to me? If not, then you'd have to look at alternative courses. If you're unsure of if there's some if there's a bit of misinformation between what's online, maybe you've done some research using one of the platforms, maybe the Hub or the UCAS page or Unifrog, and their website says something completely different. If I was you, I would give the university a ring. You give the university a ring, ask to speak to the admissions team, and just get clarification. If you want it in black and white, you could also ask for them to email you what the requirements are. So if there's any issues at the end, at least you've got an email to maybe discuss that with them. Don't accept the minimum entry grades are enough. Okay, so when you're looking at entry grades, okay, you're going to have, just when Ben showed you the grid, you're going to have, some universities will want grades, free grades, and some universities will ask for points. So if they want free grades, some universities might be quite specific. So they might say, in these free grades, you must have, or requirement is physics must be an A, or physics must be an A star, or maths must be a B. So if you don't meet those requirements, those are the minimum requirements. When we say the minimum requirements, this is what is non-negotiable for you to get onto that course. Were you going to add something, Ben?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a really good point about ringing them. We've had a few times with students this year saying to us, let's say you're doing you're a BTEC or A-level student and you've got the right prediction on the grades, but maybe it says, maybe like an economics degree, like one may want a 6 in GCSE maths and you have a 5. Sometimes a student just interprets that to think, oh, I've got a high prediction, it's okay. You should always check with the university. Sometimes they might say a flat no, sometimes they may encourage you to apply. But again, if unsure, if in doubt, come and speak to us. But normally enough, ring, or as Elizabeth said, email the universities. And what I would say is be careful when universities offer a range of offers. As I say, it says maybe, I don't know, DDD to DDM in BTEC, or 1112 to 120. I find that students read what they want to read. They read the lower requirement. I'm certainly going to count the higher requirement as the offer they may give you when we're checking your choices. Okay. So some last slides to finish before we finish up. So this is our talk,
Yeah.
sort of bang on time. Read module course content. I did sort of touch on that before. That really is the number one thing you can do. Okay, so if it's a psychology or forensic science or paramedic science, it won't be the same course from place to place. It will vary. You need to go deeper into the module content. And again, you're not applying to one uni around, you're applying to 5 choices with no ranking of those choices. So you need to make sure, you're getting to this point now in the second year of BTEC or third or second year of A-level, when you're making your final decisions, that these are unis that you really want to go to. Uni is really about being quite self-motivated to work by yourself. So if you have the interest, I'm not expecting you to love every module of every course. I certainly know when I was at university, I didn't love every module of my course degree that I did, but you've got to love and really have an interest in more. As we said, this year is not a warm-up year. It really shapes the flavour of your predictions. Come and make a careers appointment with Elizabeth or I. Okay, we're here for drop-in appointments every day, so you can drop in without a sort of an appointment or a longer appointment, which maybe if you want to talk through your ideas. Obviously, this lesson here has been pitched very generally. Okay, so we can talk about your ideas more specifically. So I like to look up courses online and look up kind of content and take it from there. Be careful if you get unconditional offers. This is when a uni says you're in. Really come and speak to us, I would say, if that is the case. And you've got to sort of stand out from the crowd, haven't you? You know, admission tutors give out more offers than there are places, but they're kind of keen to recruit, but they want to give offers to the right students. Okay. And leading on from that, just before the end of term, before you finish here, there'll be a big summer careers fair here in the performing arts space around the end of June, which I know Stefania, our careers manager, has been organising. So there'll be a great opportunity for you to network with employers and also universities. And what I would say is don't see that as a substitute. Say if you talk to the University of Leicester or London Met at the fair, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go to an open day. That's to do in kind of conjunction for you to visit the university. Quite often, if it's the universities you're talking to, those careers fairs, often they're students actually, so they're quite good to ask sort of probing questions of you can ask them quite direct questions and think what the kind of university is like. Yeah, and there are no silly questions to ask. Everyone goes through a different UCAS journey. I've worked in this college for a number of years, and some of you applying to university can be a very straightforward process. You need a bit of support, but some of you need a bit more help and support, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, we'll happily help you and support you all the way, and depending on how much support you kind of need. Okay. So this could be some of you in a few years' time, obviously celebrating your kind of graduation and moving on to, could be further study or apprenticeships or kind of graduate opportunities. But, you know, for many of you, there are lots of other options, aren't there, Elizabeth? There are some brilliant things you can do. Not all A-level or BTEC students want to go to university, and that's absolutely fine. And if you're thinking about alternatives, things like degree apprenticeships, college leaver apprenticeships, these are brilliant options for students post A-level or post BTEC, but they certainly involve a lot more work, a lot more investment in time and research and actual time in terms of applications. A UCAS application is one form, one personal statement. A progression onto a degree apprenticeship, which you apply for outside of UCAS, or high level apprenticeships, you do these outside UCAS. You've got to be prepared to put in the work. So again, making a careers appointment. It's a really good time now before you finish term. I mean, you can really see, isn't it, Elizabeth, someone who's serious about apprenticeships, isn't it, or someone who's just sort of saying it.
Yep, and I just want to add, if you are thinking of an apprenticeship, it's completely different from UCAS. So there is no central system where you apply for apprenticeships. You are applying directly to that organization, to that company who have that apprenticeship on offer. And with apprenticeships, there is no deadline. There's no there's no start. There's no time to start your application. You, as Ben said, it's about doing your research from an early stage, and looking at when that recruitment, when the application process opens, and when it opens, you submit a form. So many students we see here, they want to get apprenticeships, and if you are one of them and you want to get an apprenticeship, and you haven't seen one, or you haven't at least completed an application for one, then I would seriously question if you are ready for an apprenticeship.
Yeah, as I said, these are brilliant opportunities, but it's a different investment in time. So I said, make the time to make an appointment, come and speak to one of us, and we can give you some things to do over the summer to get your kind of, just to get you in that employability mix, I would say, really. Okay, so those are our emails. I mean, we have, as I said, if you come to our careers room, we'll show you how you kind of make appointments and stuff. And yeah, that's about as much as I wanted to say today. Anything else you want to add, Elizabeth?
Just everyone, good luck with the end of this year. Good luck with all your mock exams, and definitely use the summer, use your time off to just research. And you have the last slide is that Ben will put it on. The last slide, Ben, it's got our contact information. It has our phone number and our email address. So we just, and you can drop in. Sorry, yes, there's a drop in. You can drop in every day. If you're BTech access. Oops. If you're BTech Access student, we are in, oh, Ben, the slide has gone off, just to let you know.
All right.
Okay. If you're a BTech if you're a BTech Access student, just to let you know, we're in the lower ground floor of the sixth form block. So just come and see us sooner than later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.